Headlines 93.3 Real Talk Radio Warchant TV begins right now. Great to be with you as always. A little bit of technical issues we'll tell you about here in a second. Corey is here. You can't see him, but he's here. There's an overlaid picture of him. I think we're going to have Ben do about 7 or 8 different pictures. Corey, can you send him some pictures while we're doing the show?
Shirtless? Shirt on or shirt off?
Nothing crazy. I don't need to see your ass.
Okay, but
just a bunch of different shots where maybe your wedding photo.
Okay, yeah, that's not bad. Okay, yeah, it'll be a running. It could be like a running reel of all the great pictures of me over the years.
Pick one from one of your weddings. You could even hour 1 could be Shannon, hour 2 could be Steph.
I don't like how this show is starting, gang. I'll be honest.
I gotta tell, but you really look good in your suit when you got married. That was a great suit, Corey.
Okay,
I told you that
buddy.
the night you got married. So maybe one of those. That's a good suit. Yeah, I like that. Ira's here. I'm here. Corey's computer is sorry as hell.
Yeah.
And we can't get him to buy a new one. I don't know what's going on there, but that's the situation we find ourselves in. But I will say this. You know who's going to be here. Register Sausage. Yay, sausage is how we begin the show always, and that's no different just because there's an overlay still photo of Corey. So Ira, tell everybody how they can get Register Sausage.
Yeah, it's how you should start your day. Maybe end your day. Just how you should live your life, guys. A little Register Sausage will brighten everything. And if you want to get Register Sausage in your life, you can have it delivered. You go to registermeats.com. They will ship it to you. It comes in a cooler with ice. It'll come nice and fresh, just like you pulled it off your grocery store shelf. And if you live in this part of the country, you can do that. Go to your local grocery store. Most of the grocery stores in the Southeast now have several Registers varieties. They may not have the whole line though. And if there's a Register sausage you've seen that you want, you've heard us talk about it. Maybe the short links, maybe the hot sausage, the spicy little spice in your life, or the jalapeno cheddar. I mean, all the different varieties. Go to the website. You'll see them all. And if you go to your grocery store and they don't have them all, talk to the meat manager, nice and kind. Just, put your arm around his shoulder and tell him how his store could be better. I like your store, but it could be even better if you had some more Register sausage. And they'll have it. They'll get Ben and his staff will get it there. And you can have a little bit more registers in your life.
I had some friends in town this weekend, and Stephanie made them sausage for breakfast. Actually, it was lunch. And they couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe how good it was. Legitimately. We're like, oh my God, this is the best sausage I've ever had. And that was just the regular sausage. Like legitimately, they're like, what's the website? What is this? What is
How about that?
No, they were really blown away by it. It's good, man. It's great. It's great sausage.
Well, that's the best endorsement you could have right there.
That was really good, Corey, even without the video. You know what you could do, though? Next time you have guests over, Corey, is first of all, I like you guys having guests over for breakfast.
Well, they were here for the whole weekend, but they got breakfast. It wasn't like a breakfast date, double date. That would have been weird.
One of those weekends?
Yeah, exactly. And we were famished.
See this little sausage of swingers. Anyway.
Oh boy, here we go.
I like having Corey. I like having Corey as the voice of God.
Yeah, he's just coming from on high about his big weekend breakfasts after an exhausting stretch. I do want to ask, since you were there last night, it's fresh off the presses, as they say. Ira, what was the general attitude and mood of the head coach at Florida State since you were over in Pensacola to document his speech to the boosters?
Yeah, that was stop number 2 on the spring booster tour. Mike Norvell was in Orlando on Saturday. Then he was in Pensacola on Monday night. And man, I think he's found the right tone. I think, we talked about that last week. I know you've been talking about it on the wonderfully popular,
wildly
popular.
Yeah,
I knew it was a W. Jeff Cameron show that, we wondered what kind of balance he would strike between, sort of apologizing for what happened last year, maybe explaining what happened last year, and then also looking forward. I think I don't know, hear your guys' thoughts, but I think it's probably the right message that, clearly things slipped. I think that's an understatement, but, he's kind of touched on it. They've changed or maybe gone back to how they evaluate players. They're going to be more demanding. There's a more of an energy in the practices. That was one thing I asked him about last night that he talked about that I'll write about on the site at Warchant is the nice thing about a new coaching staff coming in, and this is what this feels like, even though Mike Norvell stayed and a couple assistants stayed, the nice thing for players on the team is it is a fresh start for a lot of them. And so there are guys on this depth chart on offense and defense who maybe didn't click with Adam Fuller. And I can think of some guys that, maybe didn't click with Adam Fuller, or maybe Alex Atkins had them buried on the offensive line depth chart and they just couldn't, impress him, or, you have history with these people.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have a new coaching staff, everybody gets a fresh start. And I think he said, you can sense that new energy. And again, that's not going to be what carries you through games in August and September and October, but it is, a positive thing for right now, I guess.
Did he take any questions from the crowd?
You know what? Honestly, I kind of bailed before he finished.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Man, Corey,
it's
Corey
a long
goes
drive
right
back to
after
Pensacola.
it. Man, that's tough.
I knew the answer already. That was like a lawyer. I knew the answer. I was just wanting to see if he'd lie about it. My bad. Sorry, I didn't know that.
I think I think it was prepared question. I think you had to submit questions in advance.
You
and
did
they were
right.
going to vet them.
Yeah. I will say this. I think they have a chance in spring. Like if you want to send a message and you want to see guys fight for the right to be on the field, and you want to see a better attitude from veteran players who maybe kind of packed it in last year, and you want to see some of the young players challenge people on the depth chart, you got a chance in spring to go to war. Because honestly, like you'll deal with the bumps and bruises of that. Obviously, you never want to lose anybody, but it's football and you can't live life like that. You got to go out there and compete. If you're trying to establish more physicality in practice, if you're trying to really foster that kind of competition, and spring could get fun for us out there watching practice. I mean, you got a new coach implementing a new scheme, guys fighting for positions. You got an offense that's predicated on the run, which by definition means you're going to be extremely physical. You got a chance to really create the kind of toughness and intensity that you're going to want to see that you didn't see last year in this spring. It could be infinitely fascinating for us to watch this, to see how they change practices and make them compete and find, quote unquote, as he's been talking about, Ira, that edge. Well, that's how you would do it.
Yeah, what do you think about the edge? And because I read those comments, the ones from Saturday specifically. I guess, did he say it at the boosters thing or the coaches thing or both?
Everywhere. He
talked about the edge.
Yeah, he talked about it when he spoke. So that day, Saturday, and Matt was down there in Orlando. He talked at a Nike coaches clinic. The whole staff did. FSU staff was invited to talk. He talked about it there. Then when he met with the media, he talked about it. And they asked him follow-up questions because he had talked about it to the coaches, and then he talked about it at the booster event as well.
Because I get it, and he's not wrong. They did not play with any urgency or physicality at all last year. But it's like, why did it take 2 and 10 to look for the edge? Like what was lost the year before? Like what's different this time around? Because he said a lot of good things about these kids that came in last year too, about the transfers and they're the right kind of fit. What's different about this crew? Like what did Mike Norvell specifically get wrong about some of those kids he brought in? Because not only the kids he brought in, that's not even fair. The players that were still on the team, so many of them didn't play with any sort of edge.
To me, I thought, especially if you go back to listen to his comments, what he said last year, and people will say, oh, he hyped up the team last year. He did. He 100% did. But the way he did it, he talked about their speed numbers and the weight they moved in the weight room. But he never really talked about the fierce competitors or, and that's the difference to me, I think, right? Like you'll see big dudes get into a fight and get their butt kicked because they're not, by smaller dudes who are just badasses. And so sometimes it's just, are you going to fight? Are you going to compete? Or are you just a weight room warrior? And I think there was some of that, man. And so I think that's a evaluation thing. And then it's also a practice culture thing. And man, one of the comments that Tony White made that Matt had up on the website from when Tony White talked to the coaches at the coaches clinic,
yeah.
He said, he's like, man, our goal is to, when people put on the film and they watch us play defense and they're putting their practice plan together, that they realize, you know what, we need to do a little less 7-on-7 this week. We need to do a little bit more inside run drill because we're not going to be able to run the ball if we don't bring it because those guys are going to bring it. Well, to Jeff's point, you can't get that way without practicing that way. So that is going to be fascinating because that's not really how FSU's been practicing.
I'm predicting, and I could be way off base, but I just listening to Tony White's comments, knowing what the team was a year ago, hearing Mike Norvell talk about finding this edge and being tougher, knowing what the basis for Gus Malzahn's offense is, knowing the way Tony White played as a player and what he's going to require of guys, it suggests to me that we're going to have a very, very different looking camp. And I would think it's going to be a very physical camp. And I don't think they should shy away from that. I think you can throw caution to the wind there, man. It was such an unmitigated disaster a year ago that you want to fly in the face of that with the opposite, right? You just want to do something that isn't at all like what we saw a year ago. You can have underlying principles that will always guide Mike Norvell and in what he wants to be as a coach and all of that. But I think you can't be tough without being tough. It's not something you can talk about. You have to do it. You have to live it. That means they're going to hit. That means they're going to effing tackle like a lot. I would think that has to happen.
Definitely, right? It has to. Like you can't. Well, because number one, not just because you're trying to change a mindset, it's because you were horrible at that stuff last year. You couldn't block our tackle, and you have new coaches on both sides of the ball. They got to figure out what they have. Like, yeah, anybody can look great. Well, I shouldn't say that. A lot of people can look great in a weight room or a tour of duty. I know that's very hard stuff that they do, but it's a whole different deal when you're in pads and you're actually playing football, and you got to know who you got.
The best example of this, I think this was anybody who watched the Texas-Arizona State game. To me, it was a great indication of Texas has a ton more talent than Arizona State. I mean, it's not even close. Texas has so many. I mean, they have 5 stars everywhere, but Arizona State just kicked their ass physically, I thought. And as the game went on, man, those Texas DBs and linebackers kind of wanted no part of Scottaboo. And, again, I don't know what enhancements he's on. I'm not going there.
But you did kind of go there.
Well, I'm saying I'm not going to go there is what I said.
Okay, yeah, it's exactly right. Don't get it twisted, Jeff.
But that dude he's one of those dudes like you see in a fight. Again, go like that.
Yeah, he's a problem.
He's not going to stop. Like you're going to have to kill him.
Yeah.
and I think those guys, you come to a realization, and that's what you need to see more of this year, man. Florida State's not going to be Texas talent-wise, but you can be Arizona State toughness.
Yeah.
And I think that's got to be the goal, at least for now.
The team that was that way through most of this season, and they showcased it repeatedly because they were outmanned a lot, and yet they found themselves with opportunities to win games against much better teams. Georgia Tech did that all year long. How are they in Athens doing what they're doing to that Georgia team, who's better at every position? At every position, Georgia's better. And yet they were taking it to Georgia for most of that game. I thought they were more physical than a lot of teams they faced during the course of the year. They didn't always have the talent to get the win, but and they talk about it. They did it in the interviews in Charlotte. When I was talking to Brent Key, I mean, they were talking about how they practice and how they have to get the most out of what they have and how they have to be tougher. I'm going to guess they did the same thing at Arizona State, Ira, to your point. When you have a talent deficit, you can make up for it by being tougher and be willing to sacrifice to a greater degree. I think Florida State's got to find that. That 2013 team wasn't just great because they were at every position. They were mean. They embarrassed people, brutalized people. You saw opposing teams cower. I know we don't like Kirk Herbstreit, but if you recall when Florida State housed Clemson that year, towards the end of the broadcast, he was saying, I've not seen a more physical, nastier team this year that we've broadcast than this one. I've not seen people take other people's souls the way this team does. It's like they're not just fast. They're kind of a bunch of a-holes. I hope that's what they're striving for here. I hope that's what they're looking to get because they haven't been that. And I think you can gloss over it when you have a lot of talent and you're playing some substandard quarterback play a couple years ago. You can do that. But, man, that stuff travels, and that becomes who you are. That breeds consistency anyhow.
To Corey's point about, listen, man, Mike Norvell watched this team for 14 weeks. So why do you wait till now to change any of that? I do think once you're down the road a little bit with a team, it's hard to change course. And I wonder, I mean, you got to think, Corey, like that he either in Dublin, Oregon, in the BC game probably realized, oh man, we're not as talented as I thought, and we're not nearly as tough as we need to be.
especially on the offensive line of scrimmage. I mean, I think by the middle of the Boston College game, he's like, "Oh, it's going to be a long year, and I'm really, really mad at the people that are in charge of my offensive line because this is an abomination." Maybe the Memphis game, you couldn't even push those guys off the ball, and it's like, yeah, I don't. It's looking for an edge is great. I love it. Good players helps too. Get a lot of good players, but as we move forward with the Mike Norvell era, and this is something we could probably talk about in the next segment, it's like, okay, great. I'm glad you know that now. Let's hope that this is not just coach speak. This is not just booster tour speak to try to tell people I've figured it out. I got it fixed. He actually does have it fixed because we're hoping he has a good year this year, right? And we're hoping he has a really good year the year after that. You can't collapse again. You have to figure out what is in the bones of this program, even as you bring in new players, that doesn't change. Because it changed. There were so many kids last year, so many players on that team last year that were allowed to play not fast and not physical and kept getting on the field. And it's like you either have a standard or you don't. I don't know if you guys know this, though, but I talk with my hands even when you can't see me. So I just realized that now. It's the first time I've said you guys aren't reacting to where my hands are on the screen because you can't see me. But, yeah, I think I want to make sure that this is Norvell for the rest of his career. Not just, I've got to say something because we're coming off 2-10.
Well, he's stuck, though, Corey, and we can talk about this in the next segment, but I agree with you, and I think everybody listening is going to say, yeah, man, I don't want to hear about a motto or anything like that. He's going to have to repeat himself, though, because he's messaging, and by definition, when you go on these tours, you kind of have a theme, a through line, and you're going to talk about what's different and why, and you want to fight for that edge or whatever the hell he's going to talk about. It's always going to be empty after a 2-10 season, though, amongst the fan base. It may not be empty amongst the team or whatever, but the fan base is going to be like, great, let's win some games.
Gosh, you guys, so what if we did, so Corey, he could log in on his phone and the camera would work. The sound probably wouldn't be as good. Should we try both ways? Like, one segment one way, one segment the other way, or are we just riding with no?
Let's just ride. I did send Ben some pictures if you guys want to see.
The
pictures will be
great.
coming up.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be after the show. You guys won't see it live, but yeah, there's gonna be some good ones. You're gonna like it. I also accidentally sent him the back of my insurance card. Which was a weird decision on my part, but now Ben's got that.
Weird thing to do, yeah.
When you said, I actually sent him the back of I was like, oh boy.
Yeah.
Here we go. Seminole Headlines, 93.3 Real Talk Radio Warchant TV continues in a moment.
Hey, headliners, Ira here. It's a new year, and you're thinking, how am I going to make this year different? Can I turn this business idea I've been kicking around into a reality? How do I make it happen? Shopify is how you're going to make it happen, and let me tell you how. Shopify makes it simple to create your brand, open it up for business, and get your first sale. Get your store up and running easily with thousands of customizable templates. No coding or design skills required. All you need to do is drag and drop. Their powerful social media tools let you connect all of your channels and help you sell everywhere people scroll. Shopify makes it easy to manage your growing business. They help with the details like shipping, taxes, and payments from one single dashboard, so you can focus on the important stuff like growing your business. With Shopify, your first sale is closer than you think. Make this year the one where your idea becomes your reality. Established in 2025 has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/warchant, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/warchant to start selling with Shopify today. That's shopify.com/warchant.
So piggybacking off of what we were just talking about, this idea of empty slogans, I don't know there's anything that he could say. Ira, you were about to touch on that, what Corey said about, let's just hope it's not rhetoric. And I just think he's kind of stuck when you're on these tours because nothing you can say, short of introducing these coaches and talking about their philosophy and why you're excited to have them on board. And maybe you could talk about some of the newer personnel and why you're excited to have them. But you're not really going to be able to convince anybody of anything until you play a game. Because everybody got so excited about last year's team and obviously feel like the rug was pulled out from under them.
Yeah, and I also think it's it's a situation where he can't come out and just dog players or coaches. He can't come out and say, guys, man, I don't know what gave Alex Atkins that extension, and dude, just stop working. He can't he can't come out and do that, or players. He can't say, you know what, man, I really was impressed by this player in the portal, and woo, we were wrong. He's not nearly as good as we thought he was. So it's kind of like he can't really blame them. He can't really, he can blame himself to a degree, but you don't want to go over the top with that, because
That's
you
the
want
hard
people
part.
you want people to believe you have confidence and you know what you're doing. I thought one other interesting thing he said when Christy and I were talking to him before the event. I asked him about Malzahn's offense and how different it's going to be in terminology and those types of things, and he pointed out that he said there were things he wanted to change anyway. Like there were things he realized at some point during last season, like we need to either get back to this, and he didn't go into details, but basically what he was saying is the offense we're going to be running is not just necessarily Gus's offense. It's not necessarily what we were running, but there were things he already wanted to do, and those are things they're putting in also. So I'm curious what that is. I mean, I do think, Dominic Robinson's doing these videos with Tom Lang on our site that are awesome, going back, breaking down Gus Malzahn's offense back at Auburn and then UCF, and some of that's already up, some will be coming. But I wonder if it is going to be even not exactly that. I mean, I do think Mike Norvell, I don't know that he's totally giving Gus Malzahn. I mean, I think he's giving Gus Malzahn control of the offense. He's going to be running it, calling the plays and all that. But I do wonder if there's going to be a little bit of a marriage between some of the things Norvell wanted to do anyway. Again, there's no way to answer that, but I thought it was an interesting comment.
What do you think it could be, Ira? Like what I feel like they run kind of the same offenses anyway. So is he trying to why do you think he's saying something like that?
Yeah, I don't know. It was almost like, I mean, you could say, well, he's just trying to make sure people know he's still involved. I mean, that would be probably cynical or skeptical way.
But also, why would nobody wants that? We all lived through last season. Why would he think, oh, God, people are worried that Mike Norvell won't be called?
You want him to earn his money, Corey.
Okay.
No, I don't know. I wish we had more time to, next time I talk to him, I will definitely try to ask him more about it. But I just, and again, maybe it's going back to, scheme things he's seen other places that he wants to adopt. I mean, it's a copycat sport. So there may have been things he's seen in other teams. I know he's, in recent years, he's gone and visited NFL teams and, he's trying to learn. It's not like he's always going to run the same thing every year. But, basically I think what he was trying to explain to me was it's not just a matter of, because I asked him, well, you do have Pittman coming in and you have Adrian Medley, you have some of these guys that played for Gus Malzahn at UCF. They have that experience. Thomas Castellanos was in his system for a year. And I think he was trying to explain, but it's not exactly going to be just bringing over UCF's playbook. There are other things he wanted to bring in as well.
Well, good. So, I don't want it to be a replica. UCF sucked last year, and I do think you have to have a bunch of different things you want to add to what Malzahn does, particularly in the passing game. And I'm going to guess that part of what is going on here, and it's just a guess, you still have to be able to recruit quarterbacks and receivers.
Yeah.
You still have to convince guys that you're not going to be a one-trick pony and that they can be valued, and there's playmaking opportunities as a receiver. You can go to the league running this offense. Like incorporating more of the passing concepts to go along with a run-heavy, run-first type mentality is absolutely possible. And Gus Malzahn has adapted his offense over the years. What he ran in his early days at Auburn is not specifically what he ran at UCF. He ran very, very similar things, and the core concepts are the same, and tempo and all that is the same, but he added a lot of elements to it. I think coaches are always meddling with their offense to incorporate other aspects of modern football and things that players want to gravitate towards and execute. So I get it. It's not going to be like, hey, they ran this offense over there, and the guys that ran it with him will know exactly that what we're running here. I think he's going to try to incorporate some other things. I hope he does, at least in the passing game.
Well, because why bring Deuce Robinson and Squirrel White, and the way he was talking about Hakeem and Jaylen Brown and the guy B.J. Gibson and the guys from last year. It's like, yeah, man, you've got like 11 receivers, and theoretically you believe in all of them. But in this offense, it's a run-heavy offense, and Gus Malzahn is 100% okay with two guys catching all the passes. Is Mike Norvell okay with that? Because to Jeff's point, I'm okay with it. Get your two best receivers out there and let them play every snap like they do in the NFL, but it's hard to recruit receivers when only 2 or 3 get to make catches every game. You know what I mean? So I think that might be a thought. When it comes to quarterback, though, it's like, man, nobody – I'm of the opinion now as we get into this draft coming up, in all of them, every single quarterback that's going to be drafted, at least the top 5, are all transfers. In 8 of the 10 that were drafted last year were transfers. You don't need to recruit a high school quarterback. You know, I mean, you want to. That's great. The really good ones, they don't stay at the school. I mean, literally 13 of the last 15 guys that will have been drafted at quarterback in the NFL transferred schools in college. And I think that's just going to keep going.
Listen, man, I the whole thing now, things could change with the House settlement. Again, we'll see.
If that ever happens.
If that gets approved in April, if that happens again, there's a million legal challenges against it. We'll see how that plays out. Some people I talked to at FSU are convinced it's still going to happen. We'll see if it happens. But if it happens, part of the deal is there is supposed to be multi-year contracts. So, you know, when these players, when they get revenue sharing, it will be a deal where, you know, you're coming, this is what you're going to get every year for, you know, 3 years or 2 years, whatever at least 2 years. And then if they want to leave, the other school is going to have to pay back that revenue sharing money. So we'll see how that plays out. So it could change. The landscape could change too. But as it stands right now, if nothing changed, yeah, man, I don't even know high school recruiting in general. I mean, because here's the thing, I would, if you're a school like Florida State or a team that aspires to be at the upper levels, you know, you still want to recruit the top high school players. But any of the guys that you think might need 2 years to develop, why are you signing them? Like, why are you signing them? Because they're not going to be there. They're not the odds of somebody staying in your program for 3 years without playing, even on the line of scrimmage, is, you know, probably 10%.
Well, especially not at quarterback. I don't think quarterback's going to.
I think it's all positions, man.
I think it's really on the offensive and defensive lines. If you're a quality offensive lineman or a quality defensive lineman and you're stuck behind somebody and people know that you're on the roster and that they recruited you a year ago and you were a plug and play kid for that program, it's hard to have quality depth on the line of scrimmage anymore. I believe that's where the game's going to change the most as far as recruiting. I do think, I'll push back a little bit, I do think you could recruit a quarterback to a system, but I understand you and I hear you. I mean, guys leave all the time. I'm not blind to that. It's obvious that it's hard to hold on to them. It would take a special kind of kid that would understand that he was being groomed for this starting role in a couple of years, whatever it might be. Somebody who recognizes they need time. But you're right. Most of those guys aren't your 5-star players. Those guys feel like they can come in and play right away.
Well, and I don't mean like you don't recruit quarterbacks. I'm just saying, like, if your sole goal, one of your goals is like, hey, we'll get you to the league. Well, that ain't happening. Somebody else is going to sign that kid, and then he can come portal to you, and you get him to the league that way. It's just at recent history, and I know it's a very small sample size, but this thing is flipped. Where again, 10 quarterbacks were drafted last year, 8 of them transferred. The first 5 that'll be drafted this year were all transfers. That's a Carson Beck next year will be a transfer. Like, that's just the way of the world, man.
Carson Beck spent substantial time in Georgia.
Yeah, they got plenty.
And they got 2 years out of him. Yeah. That's a bad example. But you know, Miami with Cam Ward, Ewers, substantial time at Texas, but he didn't start there. It's how it's happening, man. It's so when you're looking for an NFL quarterback, chances are he's going to be at another school before he comes to you. Chances are. But I feel it'll be interesting with Malzahn because he doesn't need an NFL quarterback.
Well, and
does Norvell want an NFL quarterback?
Well, that's going to be interesting. And because, and I think, you know, Jeff was trying to touch on this a little bit as well. Like, if you think back to Jimbo, I thought one of the criticisms I had of Jimbo was he was so in love with producing NFL quarterbacks because he thought that helped recruiting everywhere else. And I agree with that. If you've got a pipeline of NFL quarterbacks, that's going to help you get the great receivers. It's probably going to help you get other players around them. But your goal is to win games in college football. And so, you know, Gus is going to have a hard time. Listen, man, it's not a coincidence that the Smigel kid decommitted not long after, you know, it's easy to recruit against a team that has Gus Malzahn as your offensive coordinator. I'm not saying it's fair. I'm not saying he can't produce NFL quarterbacks. It's just he does not have that track record, and it's going to hurt you with recruiting quarterbacks. So that's I think that's why some fans were not thrilled about this move, because they want to keep Luke Krummenhoek. They want to bring in the big name quarterbacks. But you also need to win games. And I don't know that. So that's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out.
It's a fascinating dilemma, and they have to win. I've said before, and we'll see what it is 3 years from now, 4 years from now. I feel like the moves they made on offense were centered around raising the floor. I don't think it improves your ceiling much, but I don't think you can be bad running this offense if you have decent players. If you've got decent players, I don't think you can be bad running this offense. You're gonna accidentally win 6 games against middling ACC teams if you're able to line up and bully them and run the football. And they should be able to do that against half their schedule. So you won't crater the way they did last year when you misevaluate at quarterback and you misevaluate. You're going to be able to run the ball, but you bring in him and Herb Hand and that philosophy, they're going to run. And you can shorten games if you have to and do a lot of different things. But the key to me for them winning a lot of games will be on defense. But I think that they'll raise the floor of the offense where you'll never see that offense last year, as Corey has pointed out a lot. That at a place like Florida State, that's the worst offense I've ever seen. I don't know how they could possibly be that bad.
I feel like there was some judgment there with the way you said. I pointed it out a lot,
well,
but it deserves it. We should do a whole 2-hour show on how bad that offense was.
But you don't have to be sensitive to it because there was no judgment, brother.
I know, but it's incredible how bad it was. And
yes, I don't think it's possible to be that bad running this offense. I don't think you could ever fall that far.
No, and that's where some of the trouble with Norvell coming in is how did you allow this to happen? We thought the same about Norvell with a lot less sample size than Gus Malzahn. Gus Malzahn's done it at a bunch of different places with a bunch of different players. Norvell, it was startling how bad he let that offense get in a year, and how the misevaluation of what he thought he had was startling and troubling, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And that honestly, that's why Malzahn's here. That's why Herb Hand is here. So I am much more confident, like you said, that this offense will at least be average. And if it's average, it's worlds better than it was last year. And that gets you to at least a 500 record. Just having an average, if they had an average offense this past year, they go to a bowl, but they had the worst offense in the history of the human race, Ira. Try to think of another team in another sport that had an offense that bad. You can't do it. Maybe the Orioles in the mid 2000s or something.
Hey, why are the Orioles catching strays?
Just saying, I try to think. I can't think of an offense that was that bad. But it also comes to, I get why you would people might be upset that Kromenhoek leaves or Smigel leaves. It's like, man, y'all don't know what these guys are. If they're good, they might come back. You have no idea. In Mike Norvell's sole goal has to be, I have to win college football games.
Yeah.
And if Tommy, not Thomas, Jeff, don't call him Thomas, it's Tommy Castellanos, is good enough, it can win me some college football games, then that's all I care about right now. Certainly in the short term, but really in the long term too. Go get quarterbacks that can win college football games.
How about this, Corey? He's Thomas Nomas.
Oh, okay.
Well,
all right. That's not bad. Ira. Okay.
You cooking over here?
That's almost midweek form. You are rolling. We're starting it out hot. Yeah, I do think we're going to have another conversation, which we'll gladly have it 2 and 3 years from now. If they go 8-4 and 7-5 and 8-4 back-to-back years, something like that, you're like, all right, well, cool. They don't suck, but they're not real good.
Well,
let's get there. Let's get there.
Well, I mean, I think the path is get to, average to good on offense over these next couple of years, and then build an elite defense, and then build an elite defense. And if you do that, or, you get a transcendent quarterback, that's the other thing that could take that offense or any offense to a different level. But you can be a ACC championship football team with a good offense. Doesn't have to be a bunch of NFL superstars and a great defense. And so, and I think if Tony White's the right guy, and if you can recruit at a high level, and if the NIL money is where it's supposed to be, and all that, you can build an elite defense. So, yeah, man, I think that's the path. I think in the short term, again, all college football fans, certainly Florida State fans, love offense, love big. We all grew up on Bobby Bowden's offense, but it's it may look a little bit different here.
It's going to look a lot different, but if they win, people will accept it. I always talk about that, and I think, yeah. Look, I think their battle now is to get back to average on offense and establish an identity of some kind. I think that's why you bring Gus Mells on, and you know what you're going to be. You're going to be a run-first team. You're going to run the quarterback and change the math. You got to be physical to run that system. I think you're right. On the other side of the ball is where they have a chance to be great. I think Tony White's an ascending star in the making as a coach. I think he's got a chance. Hopefully, they can recruit to that level. But I think what he's going to demand of these linebackers, what he's going to demand of that secondary, coming downhill and not turning it down and sticking people and playing the run tougher, bringing pressure from all over the place. This is going to be a lot more fun for fans to watch. That's where my head goes. Like, I don't know how quickly they can get there. That's why we'll watch camp and practice, and we'll see how close they are to that. But I think they've got some good players over there, and they got to get more physical. They got to get more physical out of them. They got to get tougher. They got to be mentally tougher too. So, I mean, that's what we're talking about with camp. So it'll be fascinating. Hey, speaking of which, did you go and have a beer this weekend at Tavello? I saw pictures or something. What was going on?
I didn't go to Tavello proper. I actually went up to Pebble Hill Plantation. Tavello was over. They were there. There was an event. It was actually a cycling event, a big.
You were there. So you were there anyway.
So yeah. So and the best part. Here's the best part. So I ran into a few people I know there, and this is like one of those road races, like 30 miles, 50 miles. There's different like levels of people running, but there's no half mile bike ride. And a couple, right. But like 2 or 3 people are like, "Oh, you're a cyclist? What? Are you on drugs?" No, I said that there's beer here.
Yeah, and,
right. So no.
Did you have your cycling gear on though?
I should have showed up in the spandex.
Yeah. I think it's important when you wear your cycling gear to tuck in your shirt.
Yeah.
It's a good look.
And no, so I was not. But it was a cool event. They had a band and other things elsewhere. So look, keep your eyes open, people. Tavello's often at some of these events around town. They're going to be doing more of those in Tallahassee as well. But you know where they're going to be Monday through Sunday, every other day of the week. Go to Tavello. Just as soon as you get into Thomasville, or on the right hand side, they've got a great little brewing area. You know, the brewery's right there. You can actually see it. They'll let you go in sometimes and go check it out. But then they have the little bar area and an outdoor patio, a bunch of different craft brews, anything from the stouts that Jeff likes to partake in, to, you know, more of like the easier lager, something that, you know, the Rose City lager that might be more Corey and my speed, and then the obviously the coffee blonde, which we love as well. So, and if a bunch of IPAs, test them out, man. They'll give you the little sample, or what do you call it, the flights or whatever. You can try out a bunch of different beers.
You guys would have no way of knowing this, but today is my wife and I's anniversary.
Congratulations.
I knew that.
Thank you. Yeah, Corey, that's right. You probably have a reminder on your phone.
Yes, of course I do.
It's your 35th or 35th?
19th wedding anniversary. But
my gift should be at the front door here in a second.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. Thanks. Yeah. Corey, I'm sure Iris sent a card. I'll check the mailbox later.
Of course.
Handwritten. The only reason I bring it up in a Tavello spot is that I'm wondering if I reached out to Maurice and crew over there, if I could impress her tonight when we go to eat in one of the nice fine dining establishments in Thomasville. If I swung past Tavello, they could have a flight waiting on us.
Oh,
like if I was like, question. Hey, we're about to walk through the door, don't tell her, just have the flight ready to go.
Yeah. Also, that guy that was disappointed to see me there a few weeks ago,
I don't need him there.
Now he's going to be waiting for you now.
No, well, I probably shouldn't have announced that. Maybe it'll be another night, guys. Maybe it's another night that we're going. But Tavello is excellent, as Ira just pointed out, and we're happy they're on board with us. Seminole Headlines 93.3 Real Talk Radio Warchant TV. Wrapping up the hour before we get to headliner questions next hour, which we look forward to from Birch Orthodontics. I was just telling. Go ahead.
I was gonna bring up a new topic, Jeff. I was gonna touch on something else, but you go ahead if you want.
Fire away.
So, one other comment that Mike Norvell made at the coaches clinic was he talked about how he basically was, you know, giving these coaches advice, reflecting on last season, and he said going back, he realizes how bad his body language was during games last season, and I thought that, I mean, listen, man, it was pretty obvious if you watched any of their footage or looked at, you know, Twitter after games, and people would take pictures and from their screens and post them. I mean, it was pretty obvious, but I thought it was good for him to acknowledge it. I mean, I think, and I do think it's important. Listen, man, that season spiraled on that entire team, but also spiraled on him. and he has to be the leader. And that's where, listen, man, I think there's a lot of things he's reflected on and realized where he failed. Obviously, the evaluations were bad. Obviously, the construction of the team was bad. Obviously, they lost their edge or whatever it is. But the other thing was, man, when they started sinking, the leader of the organization looked lost and defeated at times. And that's, that was on him. And I think it's good they acknowledged it. And, again, it's one of those things he's going to have to prove he won't do it again, but hopefully they won't be in that situation again either. I just thought it was interesting that he brought it up.
Famously, the shot against Boston College, that faraway stare that he is in, it's horror. Like he sees like pending doom as he's looking out there. I'm curious what specifically in that moment, because you're right, there were a lot of snapshots of bad body language throughout the year. That'll happen when you're getting your ass kicked. But I am curious what specifically, that was a sort of a eureka moment for him where he has seen something that is so disturbing. It's
eureka usually implies not
I discovered
the
cure. No, but no, I know what you're saying, Corey, but I mean, in a negative way, he was having a reflection of, oh my God, we're effed. This is catastrophically bad.
What about instead of a eureka moment, it's a you sucka moment.
we already don't have
trademark that, Ben.
We already don't have Corey's video. Maybe we can get rid of the audio.
Just kill the audio.
Hey, by the way, I do want to use that from here on out for the three of us on this show. If we see something, we'd be like, hey, guys, I saw you sucka this weekend. And
I had a you sucka moment.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and it was funny. Funny, but like everybody had bad body language. I think the three of us probably had pretty bad body language throughout most of the fall. But I think what did not serve him at all was, and again, it's just press conferences. It doesn't matter. Go get better players, and nobody cares about your body language. But it was when they showed him on the field, looking like just sad and bewildered. And then in the press conference, every time he came to the press conference, it was hushed tones. It was sad, funereal. It just did not feel like it didn't exude confidence in the leadership that you want out of a head coach. And I get it. He was going through something he'd never been through before, ever. It is hard to have good body language. It's impossible, really. But I think he looked back, and I don't know who talked to him, or he just realized himself, like, I've got to exude a little more pot. Now, in practice, it was the same guy. But in games, exude a little more confidence or stability, I guess.
Well, this is also why I think some head coaches take on a demeanor of stoicism during games. You don't see a reaction one way or the other. You don't see like a euphoric reaction for a long touchdown, and you don't see I'm losing my blank because we just did something stupid reaction either. You see those stoic coaches who are just kind of like, this is part of it. Play the next play. This is what we do.
Who does a pretty good job of that? Not stoicism, but Kirby. He gets very excited for his guys when they do well. He's jumping all over the sidelines. But even when they give up a touchdown and they show him, he's still sitting there clapping, going, all right, come on. Like he doesn't – you don't see Kirby what is it, apocalyptic? What's that word, Ira?
Apoplectic?
Apoplectic. Yeah, I was close. So you don't see that a lot. But again, you don't have to compare Norvell to Kirby. It's just he does wear his emotions on his sleeves, positive and negative, and he just has to get rid of some of the negative, I think.
Yeah, and it's a fine line because, man, you don't want him coming into a press conference and not looking like he is upset.
Yeah, like we just lost again.
How about angry, though? How about angry instead of sad?
I think any one emotion.
Yeah, you're right.
If you overdo
but he could have switched it up. It was just always sadness, and he always seemed surprised.
Yeah, helplessness.
It's like, how are you surprised by this?
Yeah, helplessness will do that. He knows he could have screamed and thrown things, and they weren't going to get any better. That team wasn't going to be able to block next week just because he's angry.
He could have done one of them. He could have one of the 10 losses could have been just to slap the water bottle off the podium. You got a question, Ira? What's your stupid question?
Fake Brian Kelly pound my fist like I'm a badass, even though I'm not. Nonsense. I don't want that.
All right.
Yeah. To Corey's point, play better, and we won't worry about any of this. But it is, I do think it's listen, man, he's a young head coach, and he had never gone through anything like that before.
Yeah.
He probably never dreamed it was possible. Just like Corey said last segment, that we never thought that was possible with Mike Norvell's offense. You damn sure know he never thought that was possible. And once that realization hit, man, it shook him to his core. And I don't know how much you can change the course of a season during the season. I mean, sometimes you can. Sometimes you can have the raising hell meeting, or come to Jesus meeting, and somehow turn things around. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. But man, clearly that no buttons he pushed were working.
I bet he had all of those things that we read about that happen in clubhouses all over baseball and that happen in football locker rooms. I'm sure every one of those things occurred. It was hapless, and he felt like completely lost because they couldn't fix it in season. He probably just wanted that season to get over with.
Right.
I can't fix all that I need to fix until this thing is done. So it's the freaking death march every Saturday that we walk out here and watch this nonsense. And he had to know. It wasn't. He usually did know pretty early.
Yeah, it was pretty evident pretty early.
Yeah. All right, we'll get to headliner questions next. Stay with Seminole Headlines, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Hour number 2, Seminole Headlines. Headliner questions is underway. I was mentioning last hour in between segments to Ira that, in fact, this could be the day, guys. My youngest son is at Birch Orthodontics.
No way. No chance. I don't believe it.
100% he is there right now as we record today's show. And his appointment is I'll pull back the curtain. Guys, it's 10:58 a.m. right now while we're recording. And his appointment's at 11. And his mother's taking him there. And I am quietly hoping that I get a text in about 20 minutes or so that says, that's it. They're taking him off. Today's the day. Celebrate the masterpiece as put together by Heather Birch and her staff at Birch Orthodontics is complete. What a run it's been for the Cameron boys.
You know what I think she should do? If this really is it, if Clark comes in and we've made this complete transformation from the snaggletooth that he was, in your words, not my words.
Yeah,
Clark, I've always
alien face.
Well, you just used those words too, Iris. So they became your words.
I was quoting Jeff Cameron, his dad. But so to now this beautiful smile that's gonna. I mean, it's gonna woo. We talked before. He's gonna win an Oscar.
Well, it's gonna light up a city, and it lights up every room he goes in.
When after she looks at him and checks it out and everything's good, I think she should throw her bat down and take a home run trot in the parking lot. Dr. Birch. That's what I think you should do.
I thought you were gonna say she should pick up a bat and smash him in the face with it. And then you got another 4 years of this.
No, thanks.
Toss her bat and then take a home run trot.
I like the idea of a walk-off, too. We're all waiting at home plate.
Yep.
We're all waiting for it. Yeah.
Hey,
and then we'll do the hoppy hop on the plate. We'll do the hoppy hop out in front of Birch Orthodontics.
Clark's like, make sure you touch the plate.
Yeah. Clear out. Yeah.
We should do it. Like, guys could be spraying champagne on her as she comes down the final stretch. I like the idea.
You know what, Dr. Birch, just, again, avid listener, she's our ride or die. Take Mike Norvell, when recruits come to campus, he meets them in the parking lot. They'll have the whole staff come out. They're all doing the hugs and it's like a celebration. The kids feel wanted. Maybe Dr. Birch can incorporate this into, successful treatments. With the last visit, they'll have like this big party out in the parking lot, and Dr. Birch can take a home run trot, maybe with the patient.
No, it's Heather's time to shine. Who cares about the patient?
Yeah. Let Heather get the light that shine on her that she deserves. I agree. Yeah.
And then maybe go talk trash to the other orthodontists, like they do to pitchers as you're rounding the bases. Like invite them over.
I was watching like the highlights. My algorithm on YouTube is goofy, but FSU baseball games will come up. And I clicked on one, maybe a Florida game or a Miami game from last year, and I forgot for a second. If you are not a Florida State fan, how unlikable the Florida State baseball team was. It was unbelievable. I assume it, but like Marco and Cam,
Max
the way
Williams.
they would, but like Marco and Cam especially, like Cam would get walked, look at the pitcher, and throw his bat in the dirt. And Jamie Arnold, when he strikes somebody out, shaking his head and saying whatever he's saying, it's crazy. God bless them. They played with. Talk about a team with an edge.
An edge.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, That group, I did mention it twice last year in season, and then I thought I better stop saying it because it's not going to do anybody any good. And at the end of the day, I do think that is all of college baseball, unfortunately.
Yeah.
That's what's
They
happened.
dialed it up to about a 10.5, though.
But also they had the most prolific offense in the country.
Yeah.
So, of course, they had a lot of opportunities to dial it up to 10.5.
Has a college football coach ever showed his team a hype video of their baseball team to get the edge?
Yeah, why don't y'all play more like these guys?
Man, yeah. They're Max Williams, to Ira's point, I think is going to be a problem this year. I think, A, he's really good. And B, I think he'll be even better this year. And C, if he is, he's going to be insufferable. He's really difficult to watch play.
I didn't mean for you to go down this road and start saying bad things about the
No.
best hitter.
I love him as a player. He's a very good player, offensive player. He's a very good offensive player. But man, it's not
you're
our
misremembering. It's not. Max wasn't nearly the biggest culprit last year. Cam Smith
he
was unbelievable. Like he did a home run, take off his helmet, and looked back at the dugout.
Yeah,
talk smack to all the infielders.
Cam Smith also had the great sideways trot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cam Smith hit an opposite field home run in a midweek game against a bum and gave him the Rocky arms.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
But when you're coming off the worst season in school history to turn it into that. So I do hope the football team learned something from that. Like, be those guys. Be those guys. I'd rather you be like, unlikable to everybody but your fans. Your fans love you and your edge. But, the football team last year was just unlikable for everyone.
I think other fan bases love that football team.
Well, you're right. They were very likable. They were likable to the Miami fans.
Downtrodden, defeated before they ever took a snap. That's
what they did.
But go to birchorthodontics.com, BURCH orthodontics.com, and this is how the pros do it, guys. And you can get a free consultation. They do tremendous work, and they also have payment plans and awesome home run trots.
I would love to see Dr. Birch take a home run trot, because if it means that the braces are coming off, buddy, that's a hell of a run. Yeah. And you know what it's like, Ira.
Oh yeah.
What an anniversary present that is for you, Jeff.
Yeah. If it happens, I'm not holding out hope. It could be another year for all I know. Yeah. So I took on the Corey Clark mentality about rooting for his favorite teams. That is to assume they're going to lose.
Right. Yeah.
And
it's a healthy way to live.
Yeah. And sometimes not even watch the games.
Yeah. Yes.
Judson, who wrote in famously last week, got under Ira's skin. Now, before I ask this question,
that's right. Actually, I was out at Corner Pocket. You'd be hard for you. I know that's hard to believe.
Wow.
And somebody came up and talked about your reaction to that question. He's like, Ira was going off. He was on a rant. I'm like, yeah, it was really, really funny. But anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I got a few texts about it also.
But hold on really quick before we do this. Before I asked Judson's question this week, because he did come back around. Apparently, Ira, you've had a go around with Judson before.
So this is the funny thing. Like, Judson's a unique name, and I should have clued in earlier.
Like, oh, this is that son of a bitch.
No, I think that's why I didn't, because Judson's listened to us for a long time.
Right,
he's a really good guy. He and I have been DMing on Twitter probably as long as we've had Twitter. I mean, over a decade or more. With him, actually, he's been one of the nicest people I've ever interacted with. And he's always encouraged us to do, like, he's offered to help. Like, you guys should do Patreon. You guys should do this. You guys should. He's a huge, supporter of what we do. But how did he get so
under your skin then, Ira? What?
And that's what I told him. I said, dude, after the show, I thought to myself, I wonder if it's that Judson. And he DM'd me, and we've been talking this week. I think I misheard the question. Sorry, Justin.
What?
I don't think
that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
I do, because
don't give me a Roger Clemens misremembering.
I went back and I read the question. His question was, I thought when Jeff was reading the question, I thought it was going to be the same effing thing I've heard from a bunch of other people, which is what set me off. You guys were wrong about this. You're wrong about the quarterback. You're wrong about the offensive line. You're wrong. Why should we listen to what you have to say? Which is a fair point. I'm just tired of hearing it. Like, I've heard it. We've all heard it.
That became obvious, Ira.
Yeah.
But his question actually was, does it change? I think his question was more like, as you guys are talking
Did
about
you
the
being
team.
wrong so often shake you up was kind of the vibe of his question.
Well, but does it make you change how you form opinions? Does it change? I think he was actually asking intellectually how you do your job. Is it going to change? Which is different to me. I think that's especially coming from a guy who I think has always been nice to us. I think it was honest what he was really trying to get at. And in his defense, or his support, I guess, he actually liked our answers. He thought like it was interesting to hear our conversation. But what set me off was I thought he was asking it that way. If I listened to the end of the question, I think I got mad halfway through the question.
Yeah.
Then I might have seen a little bit.
So this is a
Justin,
life lesson.
We're good. It is.
It's a life lesson.
Some growth
Let
here.
your wife finish what she's asking.
Well, I mean, let's not
Before,
go too far.
before you start getting
Let's not
perturbed.
Let's not get carried away.
So Judson this week leads us off with, hey guys, I enjoyed the answer to my question last week. In the spirit of balance, my question now is this. What is a moment in each of your careers where you had that analysis, scoop, or prediction that you look back on with satisfaction? Maybe something to help shape the narrative towards the truth when fans didn't know what to think, or a prediction that was exactly right.
Judson, I'm so tired of these questions. All you do is pepper us with nonsense.
With time.
Sorry, Ben. That's my fault. That came at 10:08.
Mark the time, Ben. Mark the time.
Oh man.
Yeah.
No, I thought that that's a good question.
We've gotten a lot of right ones over the years.
Yeah, too many to mention, Judson. We're right. I mean, so often.
I didn't like being right about one that I'm right about and was right about for years, because it involved having to, diminish and talk badly about a legend like Bobby Bowden. But I was right about that. I was right about where the program was headed, and I was right about what they needed to do.
Those were some uncomfortable times. I still would love to have, and again, we talked in that time frame, and I would come on your show sometimes. But that must have been an interesting time for a young buck in the business.
I'm just glad that there was no, to the extent that social media exists now. I mean, this would have been crazy. I mean, it was already weird. I got crazy emails and things where I was like, oh, this is crossing a line here. This is getting a little weird. Yeah, it happened some.
Right.
But I didn't like being right about that. I didn't like having that opinion. It was my opinion and I had to give it, but I didn't like having that opinion sitting there saying, well, this is fruitless, guys, and it's not going to get better, and you know it, and you don't want to admit it, but the bottom line is you're not allowed to tear it down just because you built it. And we would have these conversations every day, and it just got contentious and ugly, and he eventually got mad at me, and it was just like all of it was uncomfortable. But for the example that Judson's asking for, that's one I certainly got right.
I got one. But that's not a good one. It's supposed to be something positive, not that Bobby Bowden should retire or was crumbling the program. Think of something positive for Florida State.
Okay,
athletics.
I said that they should hire Jimbo Fisher away from LSU and make him their OC because he is innovative. He just set passing records in the SEC.
Well, yeah, there you go. That's better. I like that one.
There you go.
There you go. That's better. And then, I mean, obviously, it was egg on your face 10 years later. Egg all over your face. There are a few. Mine are more player oriented. Like, I think this guy, when I saw him, I think he has a chance to be really good. Terrence Mann is one that I saw as a freshman. Is like, I think this guy could be a really good college player by the time he's done. I had no idea. Atlanta Hawk, Terrence Mann, by the way.
How great is that?
That is awesome.
We don't have to stay up till 10:30 at night to watch him play.
And they have undefeated since he got there. He's a perfect little addition to that team because he doesn't care if he scores or not.
Right.
But after Leonard's, whenever that would have been, the Bacon Beasley year, I was everybody wanted to, not everybody, a lot of Florida State fans wanted to get rid of Leonard because he had missed the tournament 4 years in a row. I'm like, but wait, Jonathan Isaac's coming. You lose Jonathan Isaac if you fire Leonard Hamilton right now. Let's just see what it looks like with Jonathan Isaac. He gets one more year. And I think we were all kind of on board on that, I think.
It worked out. You were right.
And then they went up to the tournament. Well, it would have been 5 years in a row without COVID and 4 Sweet 16s or whatever it was. So I was like, you don't get Jonathan Isaacs that much in Florida State basketball. Florida State basketball doesn't have the access to players like that. So keep them. Let's see what that looks like. one player can help turn around a program, and he did.
Ira, you've nailed a bunch of things. What's your favorite?
Oh, tons.
No, but you have. What's your favorite?
I had a great one. And then Mike Norvell went and ruined it last year. But in the middle, I think it was in 2021 when we were actually able to go to every practice. I tweeted, "Mike Norvell can coach," and I was like, I don't know how this is going to go, but I know that this guy can coach. And then when they went 10-3, then when they went 13-0, I retweeted that a couple times. I was pretty proud of in that time when everybody was like, "Who did we just hire?"
Did you retweet it last year?
I did not retweet it last year. But you guys might be able to find it. And
I hope you deleted it.
That was I had a good 18-month run with that tweet. Feeling pretty good about myself. And now it's one of those that Judson's going to come at me for.
You know what's funny, Ira?
I love you, Judson. Just kidding.
It's not the only time I can think of it, but this is a good one. It's one of those rare moments where your tweet in that moment would have been proven to be right. They could have shined a light. You did, retweeting it multiple times.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, out of nowhere, freezing cold takes could come in and find that and then post it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful tweet, Ira.
It's a 5-tool tweet.
It does work.
You don't see too many that serve both purposes. James writes, "Just saying, my kids, both Gen Zers, absolutely love that halftime show. Apparently, the whole performance was one big diss. The most memorable thing was listening to them sing along Go Nuts in the A minor lyrics. Your thoughts on the performance? I assume you are disinterested like the rest of Gen Xers."
Can I comment on that real quick? So, because I've had some interesting text exchanges with some friends.
Oh, okay.
About what? About Kendrick Lamar?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I don't understand. It's stemming from the Rhett Lashley tweet. So Rhett Lashley, SMU's head coach, tweeted right afterwards it was the worst halftime performance he's ever seen.
Probably not a good idea, Rhett.
I mean, that's from a self-awareness standpoint.
Right.
As a head football coach, I don't think that's
of 20-year-olds. Of 20-year-olds that are kind of dialed in.
Pretty stupid of Rhett to do.
Yeah.
Probably not real smart. But then on top of it, I had some other friends saying, like, because I texted some friends, be like, "Do you believe this guy tweeted this?" And then some people are like, "Yeah, I agree with him." And like, what bothers me, and listen, man, in our audience, I'm sure most people in our audience did not love that halftime show. I get it. But the idea, if you look at their halftime shows in the last 6 years, they're not targeting us. I mean, that's not the demographic. They're not looking for the 50-something-year-old.
Yeah, I doubt the Weeknd really resonated with 55-year-olds.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
I would say the difference is the Weeknd had songs we had heard, at least a couple of them. I'm only speaking for myself. I'm just not up to date with Kendrick Lamar at all. I didn't know any of the songs other than the last one, and that's a Jay-Z. Not a Jay-Z. Nobody would ever diss Jay-Z.
Drake.
That was a Drake diss track. Very good one, I guess, because he won a bunch of Grammys.
My point to, one of my friends who was like, I don't know these songs, whatever. It's like, he literally just won like the 5 biggest awards of the Grammys.
Yeah.
He won Song of the Year, Record of the Year. And so it's not like he's this obscure artist. And it's just, so that part to me, and I get it, man, people are going to kill me for saying this, but it wasn't for you. And because it wasn't for you, doesn't mean it was bad or the worst halftime show ever.
Dude, my mom had the best.
You're not the target demographic.
I was so proud of my mother. She's in her 70s. She sent me a text. She goes, "God, I feel old. I don't understand this. I'm sure it's great."
Yeah.
She understood. She got it. She's like, "I'm old. I don't
for
get
me.
This. Yeah, it's not for me. I understand it's not for me." By the way, I doubt 21-year-old people were sitting around going, "The Who is kicking some ass tonight."
Exactly. That was my point. Yeah, man. Like I would love it if they, the Stones again or Springsteen.
But this is common sense. Like I would think, Rhett Lashley, be better. Come on, that's common sense. I'm not a huge Kendrick Lamar fan. I like Tyler the Creator more, and I would have known some stuff that he did, but I don't know much Kendrick Lamar other than the obvious songs that everybody knows. But my kids love him, and I know they love him, and they couldn't wait for the halftime show. I was like, "Cool, man, enjoy."
My daughter Alexa, who designed our logo and is a senior at Florida State, was singing the words.
Right. I had never heard any of those songs, so it wasn't for me. I was like, okay, I don't know those songs. I know the one with A minor. I understand that one. But other than that, I'm like, okay, got it. And it didn't bother me. I thought it was entertaining and moved on. I don't really care about halftime shows.
Yeah, I don't either. That's like, I guess they become a thing. I also don't care about the commercials, and it didn't look like any of those were great either.
No.
You know how the halftime show really started, though? Bomani Jones was tweeting about this, that in 91 and 92, In Living Color, the TV show with Jim Carrey and the Wayans brothers, offered like a 20-minute something else to watch. Because the halftime show was like New Kids on the Block. It really was in 91. So they're like, we're going to do a 20-minute show. Come over to Fox and watch our 20-minute skits instead of that nonsense. And they did it 2 years in a row. And the Super Bowl's like, we're losing all these audience members, all this TV audience to Fox for their skit show. And some of them don't come back. We need a halftime show that people will watch. And it was Michael F. Jackson. That was when it changed, 1993. They're like, you know what? Deal with this, Wayans brothers. Here's Michael Jackson. I bet people will watch, and they won't care about your silly little skit show, which I loved in Living Color.
Man, In Living Color is the best.
It was awesome. But, yeah, I think it's just easy to watch something and understand whether it's your genre or for you or not. I mean, I
was upset that Taylor Swift, she even has a song with him, and she didn't come out. That was ridiculous. That's what my wife was waiting for.
Yeah, I was about to say you were real upset, Corey, I'm sure. Yeah,
it was heartbreaking.
Yeah. Seminole Headlines, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV continues in a moment. Back to the headliner questions. Get straight to it. Thank you, Noel Tiggety, and away we go. He writes, good day, gentlemen of sausage. I'm going to need Corey's reaction to this photo, and it's a photo, Corey, if you can't see it. It's Bill Belichick's 24-year-old girlfriend in an Atlanta Falcons Super Bowl champions, 51 champions T-shirt. I know it's not great podcasting, but fun for YouTube fodder, no doubt. Corey, so you did see the shirt?
I did see the shirt, and I saw the tweet about the bodies of both. It was a funny tweet about the bodies of Bill Belichick and her. Look, I'm not here to. It's fine, whatever. She was 16 when that game was played. He was an old man back then, and she was 16. And now he's dating a 24-year-old, and we're just like, oh, it's good for Bill.
Well,
it's gross.
It's clearly
gross.
But you know what, Corey, the reason people don't get upset about it is they can tell that there's a genuine love,
admiration,
and like that. It happened
mutual.
Organically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let me ask you.
He's
Corey,
72 years old, man.
All right, Corey,
were you gross?
Corey, were you at the? We don't judge here, Corey. Did you? Were you watching?
You judged all the people that didn't like the Kendrick Lamar show. We're gonna judge the 72-year-old man. That's
hey. Were you at a Super Bowl party in Atlanta?
No, I was in Tallahassee. I was at Corner Pocket.
Oh, okay. How many times did people say to you, or how many times did you say to other people when the Eagles were up by 30 points that, hey guys?
I've seen it. Don't give up yet. Yeah, it was brought up quite a bit. It was brought up quite a bit.
You would have had a tougher one to sell though at 34-0. They had been across the 50 no times midway through the third quarter.
When they showed the stat of like 241 yards total yards to 20. I'm like, this just even the 28-3 didn't feel this dominant.
No, it
was not that dominant.
It was this. I think it was the second series. I said to Kim and
it's over.
Alexa, I was like, well, this is not going to be an interesting game because they can't block them and they can't stop them.
So let's just get ready for the halftime show.
Exactly.
I told my wife, I said, because she cares a little about football, but she'll watch the Super Bowl. Obviously, we're sitting there and I go, oh no. And she goes, what? Because at that point it's like 10-0. Yeah. And I go, oh no. And she goes, what? I go, this is going to be an ass beating. And she goes, why would you know that? I said, those 5 guys can't block those 4 guys. This
not
is
at all.
over.
Not a little bit.
Hey, good on you, Josh Sweat.
Holy man, he was great. He was a borderline Super Bowl MVP almost. He was awesome.
He was incredible. Alejandro writes, gents, thank you for the great shows. I always feel like I'm just listening to a bunch of old friends. With Texas giving Lamborghinis out and Ohio State spending $20+ million on NIL, how long can we afford to be in this conference considering all the money we are spending on infrastructure?
The emphasis was on old friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's obviously a big topic from over the last week or so. A couple weeks ago, news broke that the ACC is going to stay together until 2036, and ESPN is going to broadcast their games. The question is, how long has Florida State in it? We had the story the other day where the ACC is going to be deposing depositions with 5 former Florida State officials: Eric Barron, former president; John Thrasher, former president, and a few other high-level administrators, which to me speaks to what I was kind of trying to say at the time. I think we all were, was that just because, the ESPN adopted the contract with the ACC, or it extended it to 2036, and just because there are some settlement discussions, it doesn't mean a settlement is imminent, which I think a lot of Florida State fans feared. And the fact that these lawsuits are moving forward tells you that it's not a done deal. So, I mean, I think in terms of the big picture question, they're going to have to either, what they get from the ACC is going to have to dramatically change, or they're going to have to be out of this conference in the next few years. Whether it's 2030, whether it's 2031, I don't think they can stand until 2036 unless the numbers from the ACC for FSU and Clemson change dramatically.
Or maybe the numbers in 2031 go way down for the SEC and the Big Ten, right?
Yeah.
There's no reason to think that would happen, other than we have no idea how TV is going to work then, and streaming services might be in the mix. But other than that, the bubble bursting, I guess, is like, if the bubble burst on TV revenue for college athletics, then who knows? But as long as it keeps going in this direction, it's hard to imagine that they were just going to ride this out for 10 years.
Can't. Garrett writes, "Hey guys, if you were Tom Brady's producer, what would you tell him to improve with his broadcasting skills?" Yeah,
everything.
He is in year one, and I do give guys a little bit of a leeway. You can't just walk off the field and be good at it necessarily. Some people do, but it's kind of rare. So trying to give him the benefit of the doubt.
I thought in that game, and we haven't talked about this at all, guys, off the air, so I'm curious your guys' thoughts. I thought it was like they were holding on to this hope that I thought that the Chiefs were going to do something at some point.
Well, I'm sure they would have liked people to stick around.
Right. And I get that, but it just felt like maybe at some point, I don't know, more of a appreciation of this Eagles team, and I'm not an Eagles fan, but it felt like, I don't know. My impression was that it was an all-time ass kicking, and I don't know that they really captured that. I don't know what you guys
think you can make a case that it's the greatest first half a defense has ever played in a Super Bowl.
The Falcons held Tom Brady to 3 points.
Yeah, and the Bucs held the MVP Rich Gannon to 3 points.
That's right, and had a couple pick sixes, I think. Right?
Yeah, that's correct. No, there's some great the 2000 Ravens. There's a bunch of good ones. The Cowboys dismantled the Dolphins in that 24-3 Super Bowl back in the 70s. But there's been, I mean, at one point you had Mahomes with 20 yards passing, and they had 13 yards rushing total as they were headed to halftime, and they had 2 interceptions and 3 sacks, and obviously no points.
Yeah,
it's like the other team's not even there at that point.
Well, they caught fire in the second half, late in the second half. But I think Brady, man, you're the best that's ever done it. You see the game in a way that nobody's ever seen the game, probably. Certainly in the broadcast booth, you have an insight that none of us could understand. Right. So tell us what you're really seeing. Don't tell me the stuff that I could hear from Ira. No offense, Ira, or me. Like, don't tell me that, this is a big third down. No, duh. Tell me what you're looking for right here to make sure you keep this drive alive, or what's going on when a great quarterback has a bad day like Mahomes was having. What's that like, great quarterback? You've lived it. You had some bad days, even though you were awesome. Tell us how you get out of a rut. Tell us what you have to do to get going. Or anything inside being a great quarterback.
And is there that was one thing I was kind of waiting for, is what can you do? Is there anything, what could they be doing from a play calling standpoint, or is there anything they could do if you've ever been in a situation like this where you can't block, and what can you do to slow this down? Is there anything you could do? It was almost more just, he was just discussing what happened instead of, to your point, I guess, what could they do?
is the disparity between Tony Romo and Tom Brady as a broadcasters this bigger than the disparity of them as quarterbacks?
I don't know if
Tony's gone downhill. He was great.
He's still worlds better than Brady now.
Of course he is. Yeah, I think
Tony Romo was an all-pro-ish quarterback. He played in some Pro Bowls. He wasn't terrible. He got some playoff games.
No, he was a good player. Player.
I think they're close.
Kevin Burkhardt's trying his hardest to get Tom Brady to do what we're asking him to do here. I think Tom is in a weird position because he does not want to criticize, especially he doesn't want to criticize like Patrick Mahomes because of the way that would be perceived. Like, here's a young quarterback who's gunning for Tom Brady's stature and records and all of that. If Tom comes down on him too hard about what he's not doing, it looks like he's protecting himself and his.
He's not as good as me.
Yeah. I think it's a tough thing there, but I do believe that they've got to tell him, look, I don't think you're bashful, but I think you need to talk about the game in the way that you're talking about, Corey, which is that what is he seeing? What is he? Why are they unable to get out from under this rut? Is it as simple as they just can't block it?
Yeah.
Like, you need to bring to the table what you would do after your first two series were that kind of bad. Like, they couldn't move the ball at all. They were 1 of 12 on third downs. Like, you're sitting there going, what would you call for in this instance? I agree. But that's what fans want to hear. They want to hear the greatest quarterback of all time say, well, when confronted with these kinds of odds and these kinds of physical disadvantages, you've got to run a lot more RPO. You got to do a lot more, get the ball out of your hand. You got to do, he never really went there, and that's kind of frustrating. I agree. Gentlemen, with the big game, while watching the big game in the third quarter after the Eagles scored first, I wonder, does Corey hope that the Chiefs come back to wash away some of that Falcon?
Come on, guys. Yeah, come on. It angers me, again, not that she was just 16, but she got a special shirt made because it's not like they printed up shirts at halftime of the Falcons were the Super Bowl champs. She just went and got a specialty shirt made because of the dude that's older than her grandpa coached in the game. It's gross. I don't know who I judge more, her or him.
They come by their love, honestly, Corey. And you are going to besmirch it every which way to Sunday.
I guess I've always had a problem with those like traditional love stories like those two. It is tradition.
When is Hallmark going to do a movie with that age gap?
Yeah, the 48-year age gap. Yeah.
Nate writes, can we put a Mahomes jersey on any meat manager that doesn't carry register sausage and unleash the way Josh Sweat did? Asking for a fan base.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, register sausage. It's I sung its praises last hour. By the way, I want people to know that I'm having computer issues. If you've tuned in late, that's why you're not seeing my actual mouth moving. My face talking.
They might like this better, though. We'll see.
Probably.
Matt writes, hi, gents. Circling back to my 2028 question from last week, it is designed to get a feel about the football program. Given what you know today, how do you feel about the trajectory? You implied that Ohio State was predictable. If that is the goal, does that mean you don't feel good about our chances?
Of being Ohio State?
I mean, I guess. I don't remember.
I think he was just like projecting, where do we see the program being? And I think we were like, it's just hard now, man. It's just these teams are going to be all over the map. It's not linear.
Yeah, they're going to go up and down, up and down. We think
so
more often.
So I guess his follow-up is, well, if Ohio State's predictable that we think they're going to be good, then are we answering the question by saying Florida State's not on that path to being a perennial power anymore? Yeah, right now you couldn't say they are.
No, but this year is going to be really important. And I think you could boil it down to something a little bit more simple, and that is, we seem like we're light years away from the reigning national champion right now, and that's accurate given what they were and what Florida State was. But things change quickly in the sport. We know that. So this season needs to tell you that you've got a fighting chance for that to be a realistic goal in a reasonable future. Like, okay, they're miles away from it now. Can they close the gap by half this year? Can they get to 8-4? Can they suddenly be projected the following year to a 9 or 10 win team? Because once you get there, you start changing your goals again, and you start talking about well, I'd like to win the national effing championship. So
we got to remember it's just going to be incredibly hard to ever win another national championship. Florida State can and probably will do it sometime in our lifetimes, but it's hard. Like Ohio State didn't just cruise to the darn thing.
Yeah.
It was hard. It's hard. They got to
6 weeks earlier. People were saying the guy should be fired.
But even in the playoffs, they got that the strip sack at like the whatever it was, the 7-yard line, or they're about to be in a tie game with a minute left. Like it's hard to beat these good teams, bang, bang, bang like that in a row. I think, look, man, if Jordan Travis is healthy in 2023, that's a national championship caliber team as it played out. I mean, I'm not predicting they would have won it, but I think they're definitely better than Washington. And I think they could have hung with Michigan. I think they could have hung with Michigan without Jordan Travis. Right. And I think that that was a championship caliber team, and then it completely torpedoed. To Jeff's point about how quickly things change.
Yeah.
So there's no reason that you can't get another roster like the one you had 12 months ago. That was a championship level team that didn't have a lot of injuries until the big one at the end. So you got to get lucky, and you got to get lucky in the portal. You got to get lucky in development. But as long as there's a will here at Florida State, they will be able to produce good teams. The question is, can they produce the elite championship team?
Well, and going back to what Jeff said, how big this year is, because listen, man, a year ago, I think the answer to that question from all of us would have been yes. I mean, Mike Norvell, what he had done, winning 19 straight games, going 23-4 over 2 years, taking the program from where it was to where it was then. Now seemed like recruiting was going to get better. We thought this coming year would maybe be a top 5 class early on. They were doing really well in recruiting a year ago. But the season went off the rails. So if you can turn it around this year and show that was a blip, then it could happen. But I just think we can't say that right now. There's no way to know.
Yeah, I just boiled down this season to whether or not Mike Norvell has a future at Florida State or not. Right. Like you can't suck this year. Then I want you fired, and I'll tell everybody he should be fired. But I mean, let's see if he doesn't suck. He might not.
Yeah, another debacle, and there's no coming back from that.
No, I wouldn't think. But I'm rooting for that not to be the case. We all are. Nathaniel writes, since Clark's before and after photos are going to be legendary, should we not just have his heinous before and beautiful after mug plastered at the bottom of the screen along with Dr. Heather Birch Miracle Worker sign next to it for hour number 2 for next couple of months? Hey, I'm willing to do that, man. If we're moving on, that's great. And Clark doesn't mind that his father constantly berated him about his alien-like face.
Yeah. Which he had no control over. In fact, some would say that you and
blame you.
Christy had more to do with it than he did. But it toughened him up though.
I think so. I think he learned a valuable lesson how tough this world can be.
It's not a bad play though. I think Birch would like that. I think Heather would like that. Just some evidence of what she does, that she is truly a miracle worker.
Nathaniel wanted to point out, he gave me credit for my analysis on the Super Bowl beforehand, and he says, for your information, I'm also a former hot-natured man who has inexplicably turned into a physically imposing yet cold, often shivering child when the nights drop below 40 degrees. And he said, I admit this now feels like a bit of a support group for us. We were talking about how I'm embarrassed that this has happened to me.
Let me ask you a question real quick. So if Dr. Birch offered Clark an NIL deal, right? And she said, we're going to pay you $500 a month, but I need to put your before and afters on a billboard.
On a billboard?
Would we go for that? Would the
right above Child's High School or Leon, wherever he goes? Go right into the high school.
It could be on the other side of town somewhere.
Yeah, he goes to Leon, and you could put it right there on the hill as it comes up. I love it. Yeah, that would.
Do you not want to look like this?
Hey, I'll tell you this. Clark is the kind of kid. He's not bashful. He'd be like, put my beautiful face up there. I always overcame the obstacles. I was always charismatic, even when my teeth were mangled. Dad, put them both up there. It doesn't matter. It's a win for me.
I had to be able to talk game when I looked like this.
Yeah.
Now I've still got the game, and I look like this.
Yeah. Look at me kicking ass. By the way, this kind of made me laugh. It's a bit cruel, but it is funny. Jonathan writes, hey guys, love the show. I found you guys back around the beginning of 13, and I've been listening ever since. Did you ever think that you'd be watching Johnny Wilson go from dropping passes in a 13-0 season to dropping passes in a Super Bowl? Good for him.
Yeah, he was in a Super Bowl, though, so that's cool. And it was only going to be a 4-yard gain anyway. And they scored on the drive anyway.
It is funny. That's a funny.
Yeah, and it was such a, like, literally, it was like, how did you drop that?
Those are the ones he dropped.
To you.
But Corey,
exactly right.
Corey, don't feign like you were shocked.
No, I was shocked that he got a ball thrown to him.
I don't think any Florida State fan went, I can't believe it.
I was shocked that he got the ball thrown to him, honestly. But yeah, you know what? I'm not gonna dog the guy. He's a Super Bowl champ. He's an ACC champ and a Super Bowl champ in back-to-back years.
Gentlemen, I think I may have had the best week ever, writes Tom. A little register sausage andouille in the jambalaya for Super Bowl Sunday. And I took the kiddo in for my initial visit with Dr. Birch this past week.
Okay.
Wow,
Tom.
That is a big week. Now,
yeah.
You just now need to go hit a little Tavello after work tonight.
Man, alive.
Did he not have a question? He just said that?
He says, what say you about that?
Is this the best week ever?
Yeah,
It's a fantastic
for you, I
week.
guess. Yeah.
Seminole headlines, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Come back, wrap it up momentarily.
Hey, headliners, Ira here. It's a new year, and you're thinking, how am I going to make this year different? Can I turn this business idea I've been kicking around into a reality? How do I make it happen? Shopify is how you're going to make it happen, and let me tell you how. Shopify makes it simple to create your brand, open it up for business, and get your first sale. Get your store up and running easily with thousands of customizable templates. No coding or design skills required. All you need to do is drag and drop. Their powerful social media tools let you connect all of your channels and help you sell everywhere people scroll. Shopify makes it easy to manage your growing business. They help with the details like shipping, taxes, and payments from one single dashboard, so you can focus on the important stuff like growing your business. With Shopify, your first sale is closer than you think. Make this year the one where your idea becomes your reality. Established in 2025 has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/warchant, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/warchant to start selling with Shopify today. That's shopify.com/warchant.
Wrapping it up, some more headliner questions before we shuffle off here as the boys get set to do more player interviews. Who's today? What's today, guys?
Man, it's a few dudes. I'll have to look it up real quick.
It's the UCF offensive line.
Oh, Adrian Medley.
It's Javian Boggs.
Javon. I think it's Javon Boggs. Yep.
I call him Javian, Ira. Don't correct me again, please.
You're right.
That's
right,
ridiculous. Right. And then somebody else.
Okay, cool.
That poor somebody else. And then some slappy that we got out there.
There's some. I'm hearing some good chatter about Javon Boggs. By the way, he's the guy that caught like 1 million passes in high school. Really, just incredible. Almost broke the Florida school receiving record, high school receiving record, and we're hearing good things about him.
Natural receiver. Some guys just have an innate ability to get open and make plays, man, and that's all. That you want those guys on your team.
And those are the positions you definitely can help play early. So.
By the way, it's baseball week, boys.
That's right.
Another season is here. Yep. Another season is here. We make our way out to the Dick on Friday and celebrate a return of Florida State baseball. That's good. That's exciting.
Come get some. Is it Butler? James Madison. James Madison. Come get some, James.
By the way, James Madison was good last year.
Yeah.
Like a legit team.
You know who else was good last year? Florida State.
Right. That's right.
Florida State.
They lost 790 home runs from last year's team.
They lost everything.
No, not everything.
No, they're going to be good. They're going to be good.
Bats.
I actually think it's an interesting ride to watch some of the new players come in here and guys. Okay, they've got several players that you think potentially are going to be good players, but you got to see it, and that's kind of fun to watch in the early season development to see which guys went out.
But yes, they do not have a Tibbs or a Ferrer or a Cam Smith yet. These guys don't expect that. Or Dingus was incredible. And Cantu was good. Like even Cantu was he's kind of forgotten as a 7-hole hitter, but he was pretty darn good.
Well, good God, they had a lengthened lineup that featured power to all fields repeatedly. Yep. I mean, opposing pitchers last year must have been like, God, dog.
Yeah. Yeah, even in Omaha, they were hitting home runs.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see this outfield, though, man. I really am. I think the way he's talking about this outfield and the athleticism, and it's just going to be cool
too. Yeah. I think they have. He said 3 center fielders that
Right.
he looks at them as 3 center fielders. We'll see. I don't think Max is a very good center fielder, but okay.
I don't think he was the top one. He was one of the top 2 or 3 he was talking about. Yeah.
No, I don't either.
Yeah.
I think he is primarily there for his bat.
Right.
And good because he can really hit. And
So he'll probably beat out the third of those 3 center fielders, but I don't for one of the outfield positions. But yeah, I think
but when that guy's playing left field for you, it's probably going to be a pretty good defensive outfield.
Right.
Matthew writes, hey, gents, thanks for the great content week to week. As always, didn't get this question in on time last week, so I thought I'd try here again. I'd love to hear your collective thoughts. All-time starting 5 from the Ham era.
Yeah, somebody asked us that on Wake Up.
A good one.
That's a tough one because it's like, do you go with the most talented or the guys that contributed the most because they were here longer? Like Trent Forrest or Scotty Barnes? As far as
Trent Forrest.
Right, but Scotty Barnes is obviously the better player.
Right, but if we're putting together a team, I kind of like the idea of Trent Forrest there, although it would be hard not to have Tony Douglas.
Yeah, Tony's probably you could have them both.
Well, I can tell you Al Thornton's going to be on my team.
I think Al Thornton and Tony Douglas and Trent Forrest are my 3 automatics. Who else, Ira?
I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, there are some great options. I mean, I think Terrence Mann. I mean, you think about his whole career is huge.
Yeah, I like the Terrence Mann pick. I agree with you. I would also think about either Patrick Williams or Bernard James.
Yeah, Bernard James.
Bernard was here 2. Patrick was here 1. It's a tough one. Solomon Alabi was incredible. Chris Singleton was incredible defensively and played for 3 years.
Let me ask you this: if you only have 1 spot left, are you going Diego Romero or John Kreft?
I'm going Kreft because we will beat your ass in a fight.
Yeah, that's fair. And you need that. You need a little tough. You know what I like to call that? Edge. You need a little edge on your basketball team.
Hey,
John Kreft had some edge.
A man you saw last night, Ira, it is Sean.
Sean, OG.
Sean, OG, posted this. He said, Jeff, can you look over at Corey? No, I can't because his camera's not working.
Which is incredible.
I would have done that. But he goes on to say, now let's just imagine cameras were working here for Corey. Jeff, can you look over at Corey, look him right in the eye, and say, the death dealer approaches. Baseball week has arrived.
Sean is going to ride this nickname into the ground, into the magma. He's going to go through the ground into the magma. Hey, man, I hope the death dealer, and that's Jamie Arnold for the people that don't know, his first outing is right around Memorial Day. I'm going to save him till Memorial Day, and then he's going to eat innings. He's going to be like Richie Lewis in '86. He's just going to be pitching every game.
I hope somebody asks next week, Corey, could you give us your 5 most cowardly takes? Of your was it trying to cancel the Alabama game?
That's going to be high on the list. That's going to lead the way because he was screaming it from the mountaintops.
Putting Jamie Arnold in saran wrap until June.
Yep. You see it all. You see how it's happening. Yeah, and it's all right. It's all makes sense. It all makes you would love to see my football practices.
Refusing to watch the World Series that my
team. That's cowardly.
That
was very cowardly.
Yeah, that was a good one. I'm not even going to watch the team that I know to be the best in baseball, and we're just going to ignore. We're going to pretend they're not having this great success. Yeah. Although I've waited my whole life for this to happen.
Hey man, they got YouTube. I can watch the replay of the game.
Oh man, listen, we're gonna sign off, but we didn't get to everybody. Guys, forgive me. I'm gonna ask for your permission. I'm gonna steal a few of these questions for the bonus hour if it's cool.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah, dude, that's smart.
Yeah,
smart. Or you could do it for. Oh yeah, it's smart. Yeah, do it for that.
Work smarter, not harder.
Yeah,
that's
I got some bonus questions. I'll get into for the bonus hour, which is coming up in mere minutes. Our thanks to Ben. Good job, Corey. Get your freaking computer
I'm gonna
fixed.
try. I don't know what's going on. I blame Ben.
Go get that car turned in, Ira. Be well, everybody. Until next time. And bonus hour forthcoming. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.